Okay, guys, I'm going to read out the sentencing of Anjem Choudary and Khalid Hussein so you can get a clearer picture of what has happened here. Number one, Anjem Choudary and Khalid Hussein, you can both remain seated for the first part of these remarks. I have to sentence both of you for your involvement in Al Muhajirun, a proscribed terrorist organization. In your case, Anjem Choudary, you have been convicted of directing it and encouraging support for it. You, Khalid Hussein, have been convicted of being a member of it. Al Muhajirun was established in the latter part of the last century by Omar Bakri, Muhammad, and you, Anjem Choudary. In your evidence, you described its objective as being to re-establish the community, by which you meant the Islamic community, in the way done by the Prophet. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It was, in truth, a radical organization intent on spreading Sharia law to as much of the world as possible, using violent means where necessary. You initially played a subsidiary role to that of Omar Bakri Muhammad, who was the political and spiritual leader. However, you became the leader in his stead after he was imprisoned in Lebanon in 2014. You remained in the role of caretaker leader until about the time of your arrest, 2023. Although I accept that you are unable to direct the organization throughout your time in custody and thereafter on license, following your conviction for a terrorist offense in 2016. As leader, you made important decisions for the organization, such as whether it should recognize the formation of the so-called Islamic State in the Middle East in 2014. In evidence, you described the establishment of the Islamic State as being the most significant event of your lifetime. You also provided guidance to the members of Al Muhajirun and encouraged them to pursue the radical aims of the organization. Number four, I am sure, as must the jury have been, that Al Muhajirun operated under a number of names both before you became the caretaker and leader and thereafter. You were clear in your message that the name under which the organization operated was irrelevant to you. What mattered was the aims of the organization were pursued. You repeated the uses of the phrase style and means, was evidence of that view. Attempts were made through a series of public announcements to pretend the organization had disbanded in or about 2004. These messages were designed to protect you or the organization generally and were at odds with the things being said by you and others in private, which proved the continued existence of the organization up until the time of your latest arrest. One of the names under which Al Muhajirun operated was the Islamic Thinkers Society. This organization originated as a small New York based group, which you then used to spread your message to the people in America. In approximately 30 lectures to them, you encouraged them to confrontational dawah and acts of violence. Your referencing the need to terrify the enemy with Scud missiles and nuclear weapons was an obvious incitement to violence, as were references made by you to this striking people in the neck. A phrase also used by your associate Muhammad Izzuddin in your presence to describe the fate of non-believers. You thinly disguised these exhortations to violence as lessons in the Islamic theology. Your true message would have been plain to anyone who heard you or knew of your history. Number three, Khalid Hussein. You became a member of Al Muhajirun in its guise that the Islamic Thinker Society. Your Facebook messages reveal that you had become a member in December 2020 and remained one until your arrest in summer 2023. It was clear from the evidence at your trial that you knew that the Islamic Thinker Society was a veil behind which Al Muhajirun operated and were proud of your connections with Al Muhajirun. It is clear that you idolized your co-defendant and were taken in by his rhetoric. You lived in Canada, which limited the ways in which you could involve yourself in the organization's activities. For example, you were not able to attend meetings in person or do dawah on the streets of the Bronx. However, you did assist Anjem Choudary in a number of ways, such as helping him set up websites in order that he could spread his message and by performing other organizational tasks for him, such as distributing magazines. You were arrested when you flew into United Kingdom last year to meet Anjem Choudary. 6. I will sentence you first, Anjem Choudary. I will pass concurrent sentences for the two offences you have committed. Count 1 will be the lead offence. I will factor in your conviction on count 3 when I fix the length of that sentence. I will then pass a shorter concurrent term for count 3. There is no sentencing council definitive guideline or Court of Appeal sentencing guideline authority for the offence of directing a terrorist organization. Therefore, I must assess culpability, harm, and then the starting point of my sentence with the reference to a maximum sentence for the offence, which is life imprisonment. The relevant aims of sentencing in this case punishment, the protection of the public, and the reduction of crime through deterrence, and the Sentencing Council General Guideline, the overarching principle. My starting point is that this is a very serious offence. That much is shown by the maximum sentence of life imprisonment available for those who commit it. Most terrorist offences carry a lesser maximum term. It is an offence which can risk significant loss of life. Organizations such as yours normalize violence in pursuit of an ideological cause. Their existence gives individuals the courage to commit acts which otherwise they might not do. They drive wedge between people and otherwise would and could live together in peaceful coexistence. Number 9. There are a number of factors which led me to conclude that your behavior was of the highest culpability. Your involvement in this terrorist organization was planned and deliberate. You were a founding member of Al-Muhajirun. You willingly took over its management from Omar Bakri Muhammad, knowing that it had already been proscribed as a terrorist organization by the Home Secretary. By the time you did so, you had been a member of the organization for approximately 15 years, including the period between 2010 and 2014, when the organization had been proscribed. I am sure that once you took over the management of Al-Muhajirun, you played the leading role within it. You did so for an extended period of time. I am equally certain that this is a case where the harm caused by your actions was of the most serious. The jury were only permitted to convict you if they were certain that Al-Muhajirun was actively engaged in terrorism while you were directing it and that you were aware of that fact. I am sure from the agreed facts presented to the jury at the trial of Muhammad Ishtiaq Alamgir, Sajid Idris, Muhammad Hamza Haider Khan, and Rajib Khan committing terrorist-related crimes that you were directing Al-Muhajirun. Alamgir made speeches encouraging support for the Islamic State. Sajid Idris was involved in distributing terrorist publications. Haider Khan made plans to travel to the Middle East to join the Islamic State, and Rajib Khan encouraged support for the Islamic State. It is noteworthy that one of those men, Muhammad Hamza Haider Khan, sent you a message on 7th of May 2022 indicating that you were his inspiration. I can safely infer that these people acted as they did because they were members of the organization you were directing. You knew and intended that members of your organization would carry out acts such as they committed, whether or not you were personally involved in planning any of the individual crimes. It is clear, for example, that you encouraged hijrah to the Islamic State once it has been established. I have also concluded that Siddhartha Dar, whom you described in evidence as being a friend of yours, was a member of Al-Muhajirun, and as a member of the organization you ran, traveled to the Middle East where, before his death, he was involved in beheading people in the name of the Islamic State. Your actions in swearing the oath of allegiance to the Islamic State on behalf of Al-Muhajirun was itself a terrorist act. The full extent of your role cannot accurately be determined because of the secrecy which surrounded it. Your constant boast that nobody had ever been convicted of being a member of Al-Muhajirun is a sign of how difficult it is for the authorities to get evidence of the extent of the activity as a group. However, you were able to report back to Omar Bakri Muhammad following his release, giving him full updates on those who had traveled to the Islamic State and had died there as, in your view, martyrs. The basic position is that you founded Al-Muhajirun, which then acted as a terrorist organization. You knew this when you took it over as Omar Bakri was imprisoned and ran it in that knowledge. It is impossible to say which particular terrorist act you knew of or offered specific encouragement to before they were committed, but you ran an organization which was determined to support and encourage those who carried out such activities. Taken together, your actions while directing Al Muhajirun ran the risk of causing and contributing to the death of a very many people. In addition, by running an organization such as Al Muhajirun, you contributed in a significant way to the fear of terrorist attack by radical Islamic organizations which then existed in this country and abroad. You also helped to undermine the attempts of many good people to foster bonds between Muslims and people of other faiths, and none who then lived in the United Kingdom. Based on these assessments of harm and culpability, I have concluded that the proper starting point for the sentence in your case is 25 years. I have considered my starting point against the Sentencing Council's definitive guidelines for the offences most closely related to this case. Those for preparation of a terrorist act contrary to Section 5 of the Terrorism Act 2026 and membership of a proscribed organization contrary to Section 11 of the Terrorism Act 2000. Neither offense is directly analogous with to under consideration